Okay. You can see my screen, right?
Yes, we're live.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد inshallah in today's talk and in the following couple of lectures we will cover the subject of ijtihad. It's a very important and relevant subject that we should have the knowledge of. I will cover a basic terminology, so inshallah we'll have the understanding of what is an ijtihad, who can do the ijtihad, and inshallah, actually, let me just go over the topics that I will be covering over the next 2 to 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. In today's topic, I may be able to finish the first 5, 6 of these topics. First one is what is ijtihad, who is a mujtahid, when does ijtihad occur, and the evidences for ijtihad from the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the evidence from the ijtihad from the actually this is not Sunnah, this is supposed to be Ijma Sahaba. And then number 6 is types of a mujtahid. And the 7th thing will be qualifications for performing ijtihad. What are the qualifications of one needs to perform an ijtihad? And then the last subject, they will kind of sum it up to make us understand the reasons for differences of opinions among the mujtahideen, because this is a subject that confuse a lot of people and cause sometimes some problems, but in reality it's not as problematic of an issue as people think. And I think most of the time it is thought of as a problematic issue because of lack of information about the subject. So as far as ijtihad goes, when it comes to the literal definition of the word ijtihad, what means ijtihad? Ijtihad is the word which is extracted or derived from the root word of jahada. It is the same word which is actually the word jihad is also derived from. And linguistically, it means self-exertion in any activity which entails a measure of hardship. So that, as far as a literal meaning goes, that's what ijtihad means. But when it comes to juristic or Shar'i meaning, it means, as one of the definitions that is from Abu Hussein Ali and Imam Shawkani, that talks about the total expenditure of effort made by a jurist in order to infer with a degree of probability the rules of Sharia from their detailed evidences in the sources. Now, even though this is a definition from these two scholars, but in general, this is pretty much across, you will find a similar definition with here and there a little bit of differences in the wordings, but in general, juristic term ijtihad means exhausting all of one's effort in studying the problem thoroughly and seeking a solution for it from the sources of Sharia. So, for example, when people are talking about nowadays about the vaccination of COVID-19, so this is a new reality that we are talking about. Okay, I was told I have a wrong background because I'm moving from one talk to another talk and I forgot to change my background. Okay, I think it should be okay now. Okay, so the point here is, like for example, the COVID-19 vaccination that has just started a few days ago in the United States and other countries, probably a week or 2 ago. The question for a Muslim always is, whenever something new is occurring, we have to know what is the Hukm Shar'i regarding that. And for that, the first thing Islam requires from us to understand the problem thoroughly. And then when the problem is understood well, then you go back to the Sharia, to the sources of Sharia, and extract the rule regarding the specific reality that has been understood. This is the if you want to say in a layman term or simplistic term, that's what it is when it comes to ijtihad. But it requires a lot of effort from when it comes to understanding the problem itself and seeking the solution from the Sharia. That requires all sorts of efforts to understand. So, for example, when we're understanding the vaccination of COVID-19, it has to be, of course, understood by the one who are experts in the field. Yes, that those experts can provide the information to the people who can extract a rule regarding the specific action. Now, that expert in the field of medicine or immunology or whatsoever field is required to study this problem and the solution of the problem from the medicinal purposes, and then whether Sharia allows that solution or not from the Sharia perspective. It could be one person who knows all that, but maybe you need multiple people to understand the problem, and maybe multiple people to understand the solution also. But at the end of the day, in general, one person is the one who will conclude that, okay, this is what the Shari'i ruling is about a specific problem. So that's what it means by ijtihad when it comes to the juristic way or Shari'i definition of ijtihad. Now, moving forward, the question comes in is who is a mujtahid? It's a very simplistic answer. The person who performs ijtihad is a mujtahid. That's simple as that, meaning he's the one who performs all the effort to come to the conclusion what Allah Azza wa Jal wants from us to in an action. Now, there's a note that we should understand. Sometimes people don't realize this. Just knowing the rules of the Sharia in detail does not make you a mujtahid. For example, there are people, many of the people are out there who are able to understand the rule, but they are not able to extract the rules directly from their sources. So they're not referred as mujtahideen. They will be referred as, it could be a faqih, it could be a mufti, or it could be a qadi. But he is not a mujtahid, the one who can extract the rules by himself. Okay, so mujtahid is the one who performs ijtihad and find the rules regarding a reality. Okay. Now, when does the ijtihad occurs? Ijtihad, now here we will be using some of the terminologies that we have been learning throughout the time. And if there is a terminology is not clear to you, I will try to redefine quickly in general, inshallah. But if you do not understand, just write it down, and I can at the end of the Q&A session, I will explain that as well again. But when it comes to ijtihad does not occur for except in the ahkam sharia. Ahkam sharia means the rulings that are of Islamic law, whose dalil is speculative or dhanni, meaning the dalil is, we talked about the dalil part last week, which is comprised of the thubut and the meaning. The thubut is the chain or the reporting. While when it comes to the meaning of the text, they both have to be qat'i to make the dalil as qat'i. If any one of them is dhanni, then that will be considered as dhanni. Dhanni is the opposite of qat'i, and qat'i means decisive. Okay. So, and when something is decisive, there is no room really for coming up with ijtihad, because that one meaning itself is a rule of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that case that we have to follow. Okay. Bullet number 2 is talking about and the text. And when it comes to the text of the Quran and Sunnah, which is qat'i, conclusive, in meaning, provide only one understanding. Any ijtihad on these types of texts will render only one meaning. So no matter what we do, we'll end up with one meaning. Hence, it's not the one which is considered a dhanni, and we are looking for anything else. So that's all you can do even when you do the ijtihad on the issue. So understanding that, we also have to understand mujtahid is not the one who decides. Meaning, he's not the one who has the power of making halal haram or haram halal. He is the one who extracts the rules from the sources of Islam. Now, mujtahid cannot make, for example, riba. Riba means usury or interest in some cases, but it's better to use the term riba and because it has a specific meaning. So no mujtahid has this can claim that riba or murder is allowed, because the text only offers one meaning. It's haram, and it is considered as haram and stays haram. Now, to reject these ahkam or any other established through qat'i thubut, meaning any hukm, any ruling from Islam which is qat'i, decisive, from the thubut and dalala, meaning from the reporting and from the meaning. If anyone, even one rule which is definite like that, he is considered as out of Islam, and it is kufr to do that. And the person who does that, he is rejecting a definitive or a qat'i rule from Allah Azza wa Jal. Okay. Now, for example, those people who reject, for example, 5 times daily prayer, they are out of Islam. That the 5 daily prayers are not obligatory, for example. Or whoever says that ruling by whatever Allah has revealed is obligatory, so everybody knows this. Anybody that rejects this, that no, we don't, this is not, Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not obliges us, so that person can be thrown out of Islam. It doesn't matter how much of a Quran or the Ahadith the scholar has memorized, he does not have this right to make something halal which is haram, or haram to halal. Okay. So that's what it means by when does the ijtihad occurs. Now, some of the evidences for ijtihad from the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we understand what is how it was practiced during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu. It's not Rasulullah sallallahu himself, because he was guided by Allah Azza wa Jal directly. This is actually, it happened in the time of Rasulullah. Like one of the example is, which is when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was returning from Ghazwat al-Ahzab, and or commanding the Sahaba to go towards Bani Qurayda, and he said, "La yusalliyanna ahadun al-asr illa fi Bani Qurayda." So Rasulullah said, "Do not pray Salatul Asr. Any one of you do not pray Salatul Asr until he reaches the Bani Qurayda." Bani Qurayda was the name of the tribe, and the hadith goes on, فَأَدْرَكَ بَعْضُهُمُ الْعَصْرَ فِي الطَّرِيقِ. So some of them, when they were on the way, it was time for they found the time for the Salatul Asr. So فَقَالَ بَعْضُهُمْ لَا نُصَلِّي حَتَّى نَأْتِيَهَا. So they said they want to pray Salatul Asr. The others say we will not pray until we reach there, because Rasulullah said, "La yusalliyanna ahadun al-asr illa fi Bani Qurayda." So it seemingly seemed like that's what it means. That you're not supposed to pray Salatul Asr until you reach Bani Qurayda. But it meant it could be taken differently. This is why Sahaba differed. Some of the Sahaba, they took it in a literal meaning. So and the others actually took it in a metaphoric meaning. So hadith goes on, وَقَالَ بَعْضُهُمْ بَلْ نُصَلِّي لَمْ يُرَدْ مِنَّا ذَلِكَ. So so some of them said that but rather we will pray. So they prayed, and the others they did not pray. So then they went back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They mentioned to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, فَلَمْ يُعَنِّفْ وَاحِدًا مِنْهُمْ. Rasulullah sallallahu did not rebuke any of them. This hadith is reported by Sahih al-Bukhari. Okay. Why Rasulullah did not rebuke any of them? Because the command that Rasulullah gave about do not pray Salatul Asr until we reach Bani Qurayda can be understood in two ways. Even though the order was one, but it is allowed if somebody understands the language, the way the language was used at that time in more than one meaning. We're not talking about that we will change the language today and start getting a new meaning out of it. No, the language has to be taken as the time of Rasulullah the language was understood. So the one group understood as in a literal meaning, that do not pray Salatul Asr until you reach the place of the tribe of Bani Qurayda, or the inhabitants of the Bani Qurayda, while the others understood that Rasulullah was saying that in a metaphoric way, that hurry up and get to Bani Qurayda before you run out of time for Salatul Asr. So the ones who prayed before the time was there, they prayed because they thought of it. Rasulullah said in the metaphoric way, while the others, they delayed it because they took in literal meaning, and they actually prayed the Asr in the expired time, or the qada of the Asr. So that's the first example. As you can see, there was a difference of opinion among the Sahaba, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam accepted that, and he did not rebuke any of them. Another hadith will show actually how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to tell the Sahaba about the differences of opinions, and if somebody makes a mistake, how much ajr he gets. Second hadith or the evidence from the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the story of Mu'adh bin Jabal radiallahu anh, and it is his companions of Mu'adh bin Jabal. They mentioned that when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sending Mu'adh bin Jabal to Yemen, and he asked, كيف تقضي إذا عرض لك قضاء? That Rasulullah asked, how are you going to make a judgment when somebody comes to ask for a judgment? قال أقضي بكتاب الله. He said that I will make the judgment by the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. قال فإن لم تجد في كتاب الله. So Rasulullah said, if you don't find that in the book of Allah azza wa jal, قال فبسنة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. So Mu'adh bin Jabal said, then I will go back to Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And Rasulullah continued on, قال فإن لم تجد في سنة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ولا في كتاب الله. What if you don't find in the Sunnah of Rasulullah and the book of Allah Rasulullah. Then Mu'adh bin Jabal said, Ashtahidu ra'i wala alu. Mu'adh bin Jabal said, then I will make my ijtihad, or I will make my opinion, I will put all the efforts for that. فَضَرَبَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ صَدْرَهُ. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam hit his chest and say, Alhamdulillah, الَّذِي وَفَّقَ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ لِمَّا يُرْضِي Rasulullah. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, he thanked Allah Azza wa Jal to helping Rasulullah with the messenger of the messenger of Rasulullah, meaning Mu'adh bin Jabal is referred as a messenger of the messenger of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is pleased with. See, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was pleased with his understanding of when you don't find definitive things, then you make your opinion based on the Quran and Sunnah. It's not just he's coming up with his own desires or something. Okay. The third one, that is the one that I was referring to, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned that إِذَا حَكَمَ الْحَاكِمْ فَاجْتَهَدَ. When a hakim makes a judgment, when a ruler or whosoever is in the position of making a judgment, فَاجْتَهَدَ, and he does the ijtihad, ثُمَّ أَصَابَ فَلَهُ أَجْرَانِ, and he is correct in his ijtihad. So he put all the effort, and he got the correct answer for this problem that he was looking for solution. So then he will get ajran, meaning 2 rewards. فَإِذَا حَكَمَ فَاجْتَهَدَ ثُمَّ أَخْطَأَ فَلَهُ أَجْرٌ. And the one who ruled by the ijtihad that he came up with, but he made a mistake, Rasulullah said, فَلَهُ أَجْرٌ, he still has 1 reward. So it's not that because he is getting the reward for making the effort, but he concluded wrong. So this hadith is muttafaqun alayh and agreed upon, meaning by both Imam Muslim and Imam Bukhari repeated the same hadith, which is one of the highest rankings of the hadith, if you want to call it. Okay, now the next example is, this is also from the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is the example of when Mu'adh, this is Sa'ad bin Mu'adh radiyallahu an. Sa'ad bin Mu'adh radiyallahu an, he was one of the chiefs of the Ansar, and when Banu Qurayda, the same tribe that Rasulullah sent the Sahaba after the Ghazwat al-Ahzab, the battle of Ghazwat Bani Qurayda, and after that when the captives were brought in, Rasulullah sallallahu actually asked Mu'adh bin Jabal, Sa'ad bin Mu'adh, sorry, not Mu'adh bin Jabal, Sa'ad bin Mu'adh, to make the judgment about the Banu Qurayda. And when he came, and his judgment was basically the Rasulullah, he made the judgment that قال فإني أحكم أن تقتل المقاتلة وأن تصبي ذرية. He said that the one his judgment was to kill the adult male while the rest of them to be taken as the captives. Now when Rasulullah heard this judgment, he said لقد حكمت فيهم بحكم الملك, that you have made a judgment same as the judgment of the Malik. Malik is Allah Azza wa Jal, referring to the King Allah Azza wa Jal. So the point here is not specifically about this punishment issue. The point here in this specific place when we're discussing this is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his presence asked for his opinion, because there was not directly any judgment from the Quran or the Sunnah about that, and they were allowed to make the judgment, hence he was making the judgment. Okay, so that was about some of the examples from the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, evidences from the Ijtihad, for Ijtihad from the Ijma' Sahaba. Ijma' Sahaba, this is another term we learned in the previous lectures. So we know that there are 4 sources of evidences: Quran, Sunnah, Ijma' Sahaba, and Qiyas. These are the 4 sources we go back to and we extract the ruling. So we talked about Sunnah, and now we talk about Ijma' Sahaba. Ijma' Sahaba means the consensus of the Sahaba about the subject. Now, as far as the Ijma' Sahaba goes, an Ijma' consensus of Sahaba has taken place on the question of judging by an opinion which has been deduced from the Shar'i evidence. We're not talking about that all the Sahaba has agreed upon a specific opinion. No, we're talking about that to do the Ijtihad, there's agreed upon the Ijma' of the Sahaba that they agree on. They agreed on the use of Ijtihad for any incident that took place for which no clear text had been found. See, there's a specific thing we talk about. No text does not mean that Quran and Sunnah is not giving us a solution. There's more of a not direct answer is not there, or there's no clarity in there, or some principles are there, and it's left to us to use those principles and come to a judgment. So in those cases, there's a ijma, consensus of the Sahaba that it is allowed to do the ijtihad. Okay, this is what has reached a success in successive reports in which there is no doubt. So there's no doubt about that there's ijma Sahaba about doing the ijtihad. One of the examples of that ijma Sahaba is when Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, he was giving a khutbah, and he wanted to limit the dowry or the mahar that groom gives to the bride. And this is something that just a quick thing to remind all of us, because especially many of our backgrounds, Indian subcontinent especially, we think of it as if the dowry or the mahar that the husband's supposed to give to the wife is something that you only give if you are divorcing her or something. Otherwise, you don't have to give the mahar. No, mahar or the dowry is a dain. Dain means it's a debt. Debt will be on your neck on the day of judgment. And that is a very important thing that needs to be paid before you die. So mahar should be paid as soon as possible to the wives or the bride. Okay, so Sahaba understood that this is something, an obligation. You have to do that. So he was trying to make it easy for the grooms to get married, young men to get married as early as possible. So he was trying to set the dowry limit. And one of the women from behind the lines, she got up and she said, basically she quoted the ayah, وَإِنْ أَرَدْتُمْ اسْتِبْدَالَ زَوْجٍ مَكَانِ زَوْجٍ وَآتَيْتُمْ أَحْدَهُنَّ قِنْطَارًا فَلَا تَأْخُذُوا مِنْهُ شَيْئًا. If you desire to replace a wife with another and you have given the former even a stack of gold. Qintara is like a amount of gold, you're giving big amount of gold. Do not take any of it back. So when she mentioned that, and she told him from her understanding of the word qintar, which denotes without any, denotes many, it means many, without restriction, that it is not allowed for him to restrict the dowries, because Allah Azza wa Jal did not put any restriction. Who's Umar to put that? So now when Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anh heard this from the woman, his response right away was the woman is right and Umar is wrong. See, this is the way we are supposed to look at the ahkam of Allah Azza wa Jal. No matter who tells us the right thing, if it is right, it has to be taken. Umar al-Khattab is one of the akabir Sahaba, one of the greatest Sahaba, and he is the one when was the Amir al-Mu'mineen, he's the Khalifa of that time, and a woman gets up and she corrected him, and right away Umar backed out and he said, woman is right and Umar is wrong. And that's the at the end of the day, the point here is he was trying to make the ijtihad here true. He was wrong and he was corrected right away. It was not the issue of the ijtihad was trying to do was the wrong thing. Okay, so that's from the ijma Sahaba. Another example is from the Sahaba that are making the ijtihad and Sahaba agreed on. This is about the issue of the kalala. Kalala is, so Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh, he in his time, when he was asked about the word kalala, because Allah Azza wa Jalla, in kana rajulan yurathu kalala, that here is talking about the kalala. What does it mean? The literal meaning is something else, and what Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh made the ijtihad of is different. So kalala, he said, I will speak about it according to my opinion, he said, and if it is correct, then it is from Allah. If it is a mistake, then it is from me and from shaitan, and Allah has nothing to do with it. Kalala is the one who has no children or no parents left. Meaning, if he dies like that in the state, he or she, and there is no descendants and no higher generation, meaning the parents are alive. So in that case, the other relatives become the waratha, the one who inherit from the wealth of the person who has died. So as a statement, I will speak about it according to my opinion, that indicates what? It does not mean this opinion is from him, meaning he's just coming up with something. No, rather it meant Abu Bakr would express his meaning according to what he understood from the expression kalala in the verse of the Quran. So hence, the kalala here was taken as the person who dies, and male, female, and he does not have any descendant or predecessors or the parents or the children. Okay. Now, another example from the Ijma Sahaba or the Sahaba's examples is is when Abu Bakr Siddiq gave a share of inheritance to a mother's mother and not the father's mother. So some of the Ansar said to him, you give inheritance to a woman from a deceased woman who would not inherit from her if she died. Yet you ignore a woman who, if she had died, would have inherited everything she left behind. So Abu Bakr, he included both the grandmothers then. So that's the ijtihad of Abu Bakr again. Okay. Imam Qurtubi, he talks about in general about the differences of opinions. And he said the Sahaba still continue to differ regarding the rules of the incidents, though they remained in harmony. See, it's a difference of opinion is one thing, and how you deal with it is another. So Sahaba, they differ, but they stayed in harmony. Similarly, Al-Baghdadi reported, and this is a saying of Umar bin Abdul Aziz, he said that I would have not been pleased if the ashab, the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, did not differ. Because if they did not differ, there would not have been a permission for us to differ. So that he would have not been pleased, but that's already there, which shows that there's nothing wrong to have differences of opinions, but with the limitation of how you can have a difference of opinions, and this will come up inshallah later on. Okay, now, okay, we can go with this. Inshallah, there are when it comes to the types of mujtahideen, there are 3 types of mujtahid. These are just definitions I want you guys to understand, and inshallah, you will see some of the words coming up, some of the names will come up that will ring the bell that you hear a lot of time people talk about. So there are 3 kinds of mujtahid. One is called al-mujtahid al-mutlaq, absolute mujtahid. Mujtahid al-madhab, mujtahid within a madhab, mujtahid al-masala, mujtahid in a particular issues only. Now, when it comes to mujtahid al-mutlaq, the founder of various schools of thought, like for example, Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Malik, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, or Imam Ja'far even. These are referred as absolute mujtahideen. Why they are called absolute mujtahideen? Because first of all, they set up their own usul. So they have to usul al-fiqh that we are kind of studying slowly and gradually. So they've come up with their own usul al-fiqh. And of course, usul al-fiqh are based on the Quran Sunnah. And then they extract the ahkam from the usul that they have set up. Okay, so the purpose of setting up this usul or the principles is so you go abide by the principles. You don't jump left and right whenever you feel like, because then you will end up following your desires. So you stay within the principles, and the absolute mujtahid is the one who set up his own usul and usul fiqh, and then he follows that, and they are not restricted by others. They are independent, meaning they are independent of themselves. They are not dependent on any other mujtahid or his understanding or anything. They are coming up with their own. So this is the highest level of a mujtahid, if you want to call it. Now, second kind of mujtahid is a mujtahid al-madhab. Mujtahid al-madhab mean, see, we just talked about the usul fiqh is driven by the absolute mujtahid. Now, if a mujtahid, a scholar, the
All right, you guys can hear me?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. All right, I think he lost his connection. He's jumping back on.
Okay, Jazakallah khair.
I think I was disconnected. I'm going to continue on.
Yeah, you got disconnected about a minute ago.
Yes, so I was defining mujtahid Mujtahid madhab, right? And this
Yes,
is what
the second one. Yeah.
we're not getting it, I think. So Mujtahid madhab is the one who does not have his own usul. It follows the usul of other scholar. For example, Imam Abu Yusuf, rahimahullah, and follows the rules, usul al-fiqh of Imam Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah. Similarly, Imam Muhammad, rahimahullah, follows the rules of Imam Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah. Now, so they will be referred as
Sorry,
Mujtahid madhab.
your presentation, it's not, you're not sharing that, right?
Okay, let me just bring it back. Okay, so so Imam Abu Yusuf, rahimahullah, he will be referred as a Mujtahid madhab because he is following the usul al-fiqh of Imam Abu Hanifa. Hence, all the opinions that Abu Hanifa, Abu Yusuf is coming up with, those opinions will be categorized in the category called they are Hanafi opinions. See, when somebody says Hanafi opinion, does not necessarily mean it is an opinion of Imam Abu Hanifa. It only means there could be an opinion of Imam Abu Hanifa, it could be an opinion of any of the mujtahideen who were using the usul of Imam Abu Hanifa and coming up with a rule. So, like, for example, in today's time, it's not Abu Hanifa is not alive here, but we still see the Hanafi school of thought or Hanafi madhab. When he says Hanafi madhab, it means Hanafi school of thought following the usul of Imam Abu Hanifa. So when they come up with conclusions or ijtihadat regarding new issues, they are actually talking about is using the usul of Imam Abu Hanifa. Now, by the way, and just because Imam Abu Yusuf was the student of Abu Hanifa and using the usul of Abu Hanifa does not mean that he always ended up with the same opinions as opinions of Abu Hanifa or the ijtihad of Abu Hanifa. They differed actually. And we can find that in many of the books of Hanafi school that you will see that Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Abu Yusuf are differing in opinions from each other. And Imam Abu Yusuf continued to follow his opinion, even though he used the usul of Imam Abu Hanifa. So there are ways or there are chances of differing even then. It could be because of the reality you understood differently, or you have the different sources, or some of the hadith, for example, you were not aware of, or some of the meanings that you were not aware of, and later on somebody else came along and he was able to understand it differently. Okay. And inshallah, when we talk about the rules and the difference of opinions, rules required for a person to be mujtahid and how people end up with different opinions, that will become more clear, inshallah. Okay, then the third category is the mujtahid in a particular issue only, or issues, one or many multiple issues, but this mujtahid would be able to handle one single issue. So the mujtahid madhab was, he can come up with all the opinions using a different usul, but this one will be either one or few of the issues that he deals with, but he's not able to do another kind of opinions, for example, ijtihadat. In other words, mujtahid would be able to study the opinion of other jurists and trace the adillah. Adillah means evidences, but maybe unable to establish new opinions for new issues. So, for example, scholars like Abu Hassan al-Qarhi or Abu Ja'far al-Tahawi, these are Hanafi school or Hanafi madhabs scholars, but they are not mujtahid madhab, or they are rather mujtahid masala. Now, similarly, Abu al-Fadl al-Marwazi and Abu Ishaq al-Shirazi, they are Shafi'i school of thoughts scholars, but they are referred as mujtahid masala. Similarly, Abu Bakr is from Maliki, and Amr bin Hussein is from Hanbali school of thought. So these are the three types of mujtahideen that exist. And inshallah, I will stop the talk here, and we will talk about the other two subjects of the qualifications of a mujtahid and how people end up with difference of opinions. This is more of a building block for the coming talks, inshallah, and will make more sense. I understand there are too many definitions may have been thrown at you today, but when we move forward, they will make more sense, inshallah. But if there's any questions or comments, I will try to address them now. The audio you lost was 4 minutes ago. You can hear me now, right?
Yes, that was the old message.
Okay, that's fine.
So there is one question, or there's two-part question on YouTube.
Let me
I-
on the chat. Right?
Yeah, I pasted it twice because you lost connection, so I'm not sure if you have access to that.
Okay.
All right. So ignore the previous ones that I have pasted. Just look at this one, okay? Because it's been cutting off for some reason.
Okay. Question is, do the conditions related to salah?
No, it's cut off. So let me read it. If
Okay.
Ijtihad is not in the ibadah, then why are there different opinion on performing them, such as salah and fasting? And then the second part of the question is, do the conditions related to salah while traveling come under the category Hukm Shar'i or ibadah?
I'm not sure where it's. I did not mention anything like this, that there is no ijtihad in the ibadah. There can be ijtihad in the ibadah. There can be. This is why the differences of opinions exist for that. So, like we know that there are ikhtilaf about the issue of even when it comes to wudu, which of the aspects are considered as obligatory, which, well, obligatory is in general are okay, but we can find that there can be differences of opinion in ibadah as well. There's no, this is part, ibadah is part of the ahkam sharia.
Okay. Here, that's the question. The first part of the question, the last page.
If the ijtihad is not in ibadah, then why? So as I'm saying, there can be ijtihad in the ibadah. Because ibadah, what I said was, you cannot do something ijtihad on something which is qat'i. It can only happen in the dhanni. And there can be aspects that can be dhanni. For example, if you remember a couple of weeks ago when we were discussing the issue of fasting 6 days in Shawwal. So there are aspects which are qat'i, there are aspects which are dhanni. So the qat'i part there is you fast 6 days. Now there are dhanni parts within that. What are those 6 days? Are those 6 days consecutive? Are they back to back in the beginning of the Shawwal, middle of the Shawwal, end of the Shawwal, or how? Okay. Second part of the question, do the conditions related to salah while the traveling come under the category of ahkam sharia? It isn't ibadah. Ibadah is part of the ahkam sharia. Okay.
All right, Jazakallah khair. I just opened up the mic for, okay, Taslim, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah, you mentioned the Umar bin Khattab example that he was given a khutbah. It was a khutbah like a sermon and a Friday prayer khutbah, or like a general sermon in the mosque?
If I understood correctly, it was the Friday khutbah. It could be the khutbah also, but even if it's a Friday khutbah, it is a misunderstanding among the people. Sometimes they think of it as when you are talking to the imam is not actually considered as talking. If imam is making a mistake, to rectify that, it is allowed. If I believe that's the question, underlying question that you have.
Yes.
So the thing is, for example, if the imam is saying or has said, could be by mistake, he has said something. Let's say a slip of a tongue, a kufr has been said. Now the people who are listening, they will all take that as, okay, he's a knowledgeable person, whatever he's saying is right, and they may take this mistake and continue on with that mistake. That could be very problematic. So it is good to fix that kind of, especially when I'm not talking about differences of opinions, but a mistake that can cause harm to the people. They should be, they can be rectified, so everybody would be aware of the mistake and has been fixed. But there should be ways of doing it. It's not the issue of making a scene or something. It could be in some cases, unfortunately, there are circumstances, some people may say things intentionally also wrong. So if the haqq is not said, then the people will continue to follow the wrong opinions. But you have to make the best judgment, try to, of course, you have to know the subject, what you're talking about, if you know the evidences behind the subject that you want to fix. Okay.
Jazakallah khair.
Yeah.
Ahmed, go ahead, please. Ahmed Mustafa.
Assalamu alaikum, ya Asif. Assalamu alaikum, ya everybody too. You said that about the ijtihad. You mentioned Abu Yusuf, the ijtihad of like the ijtihad al-Hanafi or al-Shafi'i. Can you have two different mujtahids who have difference of opinions and they both use the usul of fiqh of Abu Hanifa?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Or
For example, I'll give you an example of that. When it comes to Imam Abu Hanif, we know that Imam Abu Yusuf, actually, one of the reports talk about like this, Imam Abu Yusuf actually was knowledgeable enough to be a mujtahid mutlaq himself, absolute mujtahid. But out of respect to Abu Hanifa, he continued to follow his usul. Okay? But regardless of that, so he continued to follow the usul of Abu Hanifa, hence his opinions are considered as Hanafi opinions. Okay? Now, did he have all the opinions the same? No, actually, I was, if I am not wrong, the thing is I read that book five years ago probably. But there's a book, Mukhtasar al-Quduri, which is a Hanafi school of thought book. They teach, it's one of the basic books of the fiqh that they teach. And you find that Imam Abu Hanifa has the understanding of Salat al-Dhuhr. Salat al-Dhuhr's ending time. Beginning time, Imam Shafi'i and Hanafi, they both agree on that beginning time is after Zawal. But end time, Shafi'i understanding is, and Hanbali and Maliki, actually, and Hanbali and Shafi'i, and I believe Maliki also. So their understanding is that the Salat al-Dhuhr time ends when the shadow of the object is equal to the object.
Right. Yeah,
Okay, that's the Shafi'i understanding. Now, Abu Hanifa's understanding is that the Dhuhr time extends until the shadow size is twice the size of the object, right? So what it means automatically is the Asr time for Imam Shafi'i starts while Ahnaf are still already in Dhuhr time. If people who are in Pakistan or probably in Egypt also and other countries, they find probably sometime you hear two different adhan times for the Salatul Asr. I know in Pakistan we used to hear sometimes two different adhans. One is earlier than the other. And that's because of the Masjid that were following the Shafi'i or Hanbali school of thought. They used to give the Asr adhan way much earlier than the Ahnaf. But anyway, regardless of that. So Abu Hanifa's understanding was that. But Abu Yusuf and Imam Muhammad, even though they followed the usul of Imam Abu Hanifa, they agreed with the opinion of Imam Shafi'i. They did not agree with Imam Shafi'i's opinion, actually. They carried the same opinion about Salat al-Dhuhr ends at the time when the shadow size is equal to the size of the object. But the adopted opinion in Ahnaf is the one that Abu Hanifa had.
Okay. Even though they followed the usul of fiqh of
Yes.
Abu Hanifa, they still had, okay.
Yes.
All right.
You can end up with different opinions.
Okay. Even within the same.
Yes. So, Akhi, usul does not mean that you are using all the same resources or you come across the same resources that the other person has come across. Example of the, for example, a hadith compilation, for example, some of them, Sahaba, the Muhaddithin, they compiled the hadith, most of them after Imam Abu Hanifa and Abu Yusuf's time.
But they can have, you can have two mujtahideen who are following the same usul al-fiqh of the same, of say Abu Hanifa or Shafi'i, and they will come with two different opinions from each other.
They can come with two different opinions, and they can come, many of the opinions, they come with the same also.
Okay.
So,
well, as you mentioned in this example, they had a different, they had a different opinion than Imam Abu Hanifa himself, and you mentioned that early.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So what do you call this?
Nothing. They're both considered as Hanafi opinions. They're both considered as Hanafi opinions.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, sometimes you even find a scholar himself had two different opinions about the same subject because He came up with an opinion, and later on he realized that the first opinion was wrong. So he did the ruju'. He took it back, and he came up with a new opinion now, because the first opinion he may not have sufficient information, or he made a mistake. If you find the mistake in your opinion, then you are not obliged to follow the opinion anymore. As a matter, you're obliged to follow the one which is the right opinion now.
Subhanallah. Okay.
And we will touch base a little bit about Imam Shafi'i's, for example, Risala, that he had the new one and the old one. And people try to use this as an excuse for saying that the ahkam of Allah Azza wa Jal change with time and place. This is, inshallah, in later talks we'll talk about it. I will dedicate one talk on this subject itself, inshallah.
Yeah, this is a famous incident. So Jazakallah khair. No, you answered my question. Jazakallah khair.
Okay.
Faisal, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So first, I just want to get the understanding of Ijtihad. Ijtihad is something that if there is a dalil in Quran and Sunnah, that is zanni, and you how to implement that command, that is a ijtihad.
Ijtihad
Right?
is a ruling that you end up with at the end. You conclude that this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants for a specific problem that is in your hand.
But that is coming from Quran and Sunnah.
Quran, Sunnah, Ijma, Sahaba, and Qiyas. Yeah, you can say Quran, Sunnah if you want to say it in a simplistic manner, because Ijma, Sahaba, and Qiyas is the extension of the Quran, Sunnah itself. Yeah, it's coming from Quran, Sunnah.
It's coming from Quran and Sunnah. But the hadith that you mentioned earlier, where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam asking a Sahabi, if you cannot find in Quran, if you cannot find in Sunnah, what you gonna do? So that tells me that there are things that if you cannot find in Quran and if you cannot find in Sunnah, then you can do ijtihad in that regard. For example, there is another example that you gave. Just want to clear that up. Is that, and that is going to be comparable what Quran and Sunnah has. Like, for example, the person who does not have any descendants, he passed away. So his inheritance is given to his relatives. That's not in Quran and Sunnah, right?
No, it is in the Quran. See, the Quran is talking about it will be given to the brothers and the sisters. See, the children and the parents are not there, but they have brothers and sisters. Because normally brothers and sisters do not inherit. Okay? So, but in that situation, the brothers and sisters can inherit. The Quran is talking about that. Are you done or?
No, I'm a little bit confused now. So, what I'm trying to. So, what was the issue then? I mean, like, if it is in Quran and Sunnah, and it is that if you don't have any children, then it is given to your relatives, then what's the ijtihad there?
Okay, the ijtihad is the word kalala. What does kalala mean? The word is there, but to interpret what does kalala means, that's what the issue was. And Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu was saying, this is my understanding about this word, kalala means this. And he said, if it is correct, this is from Allah Azza wa Jalla. If it's wrong, this is from my own mishaps.
Okay, so.
But this is not clear directly from the Quran that is saying kalala, what the kalala is. It's just use the term kalala, yeah.
So I will go back to the hadith, first hadith, where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying that if it is not in Quran and not in Sunnah, you can do ijtihad.
Yeah. It's what it means by that is this. It's saying is if you don't find in the Quran, if you don't find in the hadith, right? So this is about issues which are directly clear cut. You have the answer. That's what it's talking about. If you don't find the answer to the problem that you have indirectly in the Quran or the Sunnah, then you will do the ijtihad meanings, then you will use the principles that are mentioned in the Quran and the Sunnah, and you extract the rules from there. See, Allah Azza wa Jalla says, ونزلنا الكتاب ونزلنا عليك الكتاب تبيانا لكل شيء, that we have revealed the book over you that explains everything. So we know that the book explains everything. It's just we have to dig deeper and to understand where is the answer for the question that I'm looking for. So we go back to the Quran, look for the ayat, and then all the ahadith or which are mentioned. And if there are principles, sometimes it could be a parallel hukum. Like for example, you're doing the qiyas, which is the analogy of something, right? So if there's a illah or the reasoning behind the hukum is mentioned, then you conclude, okay, well, if that same illah exists somewhere else, then I can apply to different places also. Like for example, if you remember, the Quran is talking about for Salat al-Jum'ah that you leave everything and go for Salat al-Jum'ah, you leave your businesses, it says. Well, businesses means, so does that mean only if I'm doing a business or trade, that's the only thing I'm going to leave? When it comes to the other things, for example, I'm playing sports. So does that mean it's allowed for me to continue to play sport because Quran does not say anything about sports? Or I can be even more specific. I'm playing cricket. Quran does not talk about cricket anywhere. Directly about the cricket, does not mention cricket. So would that be allowed? No, because then you have done the qiyas, parallel hukum there. So the Quran does not directly talk about every detail like that. Sometimes there's a principle is mentioned that can be used to understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants in the situation.
Okay, now this is kind of a very important question because that's what I was kind of leading to. So you mentioned a lot of mujtahideen, and all of those mujtahideen is their time period was not this time period. Do we have any known mujtahideen these days who can actually extract rules
Yes.
to address the issues
Of
of this reality?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, you have mujtahideen throughout the time, alhamdulillah. The number of mujtahideen have reduced, that's true, but mujtahideen are there.
Mujtahideen al-Matlaq.
Sorry?
Al-Matlaq, Mujtahideen al-Matlaq, right? Or you don't need Mujtahideen al-Matlaq?
You may find mujtahid mutlaq also absolute mujtahideen. It depends. You don't have to have a new school of thought, but you could if you have
I can kind of answer my own question. Yes,
Yeah.
you can still follow their rules and extract from their rules. You can still follow them, extract from.
Yeah, and that's what happens most of the time. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I think I'm clear. Jazakallah khair.
Wa iyyakum. Okay. Okay, inshallah.